can I ask you to address briefly the explanation you've given in your statement about the process for the by which the current grants are to be administered by the ECAJ. So the first step there is that the government makes the grant money available to ECAJ for the stated purpose of the security costs for the community?
Yes, the monies are made available in tranches, and so when we receive the first tranche, we will then send out a notice to the community, either by direct email, or, well, usually by direct email, but also by notices in the Australian Jewish News and J-Wire and other publications, inviting organisations to apply under the program. We also make available to those organisations the allocation assessment criteria, which mirror the grant opportunity guidelines that appear in the master agreement between the ECAJ and the government as to what is eligible expenditure and what is not eligible. There's also instructions about how to apply, how to access the portal for lodging applications, who to contact if they have any questions, and so on. So that's the first step. And that's usually done 2 or 3 weeks in advance of the application period opening. And then the next step would be applications come in. Usually we allow 3 weeks for applications to be lodged, but in practice, of course, late applications will be accepted. We just encourage organisations to get their applications in within that time frame so that we can start the assessment process in a timely way and start making decisions about priorities and so on. So notwithstanding that, though, we do accept late applications. And at the moment, as I said in my statement, we had 187 applications plus 15 pending, and that was true at the time. At the moment, I'm told we're up to about 192 applications for this current round. And on top of that, we've been told of several other applications on top of that are still pending, although it's a relatively small number. So that part has been dealt with, and then the next phase is for the applications themselves and the detail of those applications to be scrutinised by the grant administrator and the CSGs and other consultants who may be engaged to assess the applications, to make sure they meet the eligibility criteria, to make sure that they are supported by threat and risk assessments, and to make sure that they are bona fide requests. And also, while that process is being undertaken, there is a preliminary view arrived at as to the most urgent priorities. So for each application, there might be a request for some infrastructure funding, for guarding costs, training perhaps, and each of those requests within each application will be ranked in priority. And then at the end of the process, a recommendation will be made to the National Council for Jewish Community Security as to which allocation offers should be made. So with the current round, we are very close to doing that at the moment. In fact, we have a meeting scheduled for later today. I would anticipate, as I said in my statement, that we'll be ready to make allocation offers to those organisations by the end of this month.
Thank you. And then the process, once the allocations have occurred, what obligations are imposed on the recipients to account for or describe the use of the funds?
Each organisation to which an allocation offer is made is required, as a condition of accepting that offer, to enter into a formal written agreement with the ECAJ, which largely mirrors the terms and conditions of the master agreement between the Department of Home Affairs and the ECAJ, in particular about the eligibility requirements, the requirements for supporting evidence, for acquittal, for auditing, and so on. Those conditions have to be signed up to by the organisation. There is also a declaration included in each of those agreements whereby the organisation declares that no part of the funding that would be allocated under that agreement will duplicate funding that has already been provided either under a previous round of this scheme or under any previous government scheme. So those are some of the safeguards, and I think although we were experimenting in a way back in 2023 in new territory, because I don't think this sort of thing had been done before, whereby the government was making money available to a peak body of the community for distribution within that community. I think it's worked out, from our perspective, the process has worked out reasonably well. And the government, obviously will have its own view about that, but from our point of view, we think we get better outcomes doing it this way than having an assessment being made by a government department which is not as close to our community as we are and less familiar with its security needs. So the process itself has worked out.
Mr. Wertheim, can I just ask this, particularly looking at Jewish organisations in the states where there is a much smaller community and consequentially the organisations are perhaps less well resourced than in Victoria or New South Wales. Does the Executive Council provide assistance to a small organisation in actually preparing the application?
Yes, we do, Commissioner. I don't know how effective it is because I haven't been able to scrutinise it, with any degree of closeness. But there is a resource person who is a regional support person made available by the CSG in New South Wales for those smaller communities and the more vulnerable communities to assist them in meeting the requirements of the scheme and in completing their applications. And in addition to that, of course, there's the option of contacting the grant administrator who makes a point of making himself available to answer questions and to provide assistance with meeting the requirements of the scheme. We bend over backwards to try to help organisations to comply. And I guess as a last resort, people do sometimes contact me as well, and then I can escalate that inquiry with the grant administrator to get some action on it. So those are the processes we've put in place. As I said earlier, we were feeling our way back in October 2023. We had to put in place all these new systems, and we had to do it in a very short space of time. And of course, those systems have been refined and improved, I would hope, since then.
Thank you.
Mr. Wertheim, you referred to the funding recipients' obligation under contract to report back to the ECAJ about the distribution of funds and the declaration they make and so on. There are also parallel obligations, aren't there, for the ECAJ to report back and to undertake certain auditing requirements generally described back to the Commonwealth, is that right?
Yes, and reporting requirements in particular on a regular basis. I've described them in some detail in my second statement. But yes, we make a point of giving the department advance notice of allocations that have been approved before we actually enter the agreements and expend the money, so that the department can raise any questions with us that they might have about eligibility or any other questions they might have about it. And from time to time they've raised some questions and we've answered them. But I don't think we've had any real difficulty in that regard. The reports, there are some reports that are done quarterly, some are done annually, others done on an as-needed basis. But generally, there's quite a lot of communication between us and the Department of Home Affairs throughout the process.